What's up, guys? My name's Grady. I listen to country music on this channel and whatever else I want to, including if 21 Pilots is really coming back this week, their new song. And I am going to be doing today an album roundup of some of the biggest country releases from the month of June. So I'm going to be covering 6 albums in this video, and as I've done in my past album roundups, I'm going to go from favorite to least favorite. You guys seem to enjoy that format. So without further ado, let's get into this. My number one album of June from this past year, and an absolute album of the year contender, is American Aquarium's Things Change. Guys, this is a great record. So American Aquarium, if you didn't know, they're a band based out of North Carolina, and BJ Barham is their lead singer, and he's put out some solo work, and he's really an incredible lyricist, and he has this really kind of like deep, gruff voice that sells songs super well. So American Aquarium's had a lot of turnover from their last album, which I also really loved, and Losing Side of 25 is kind of their main song. You might know if you're not familiar with them. And he really addresses kind of the turnover of the band membership, and that he's really the only man left standing, and they've gotten all new guys in. He addresses that, and he addresses the political changes that our country has gone through a lot. And you can tell both of those things have sort of taken a toll on him. But what I really like about this record is it is acknowledging that he hasn't really loved how the last few years have gone, but that change is the only constant you have in life, and I think there's a really hopeful perspective that this record takes, which is so easy to listen to. It's so easy to listen to someone be frustrated about Trump and sing a song like the opener on this album, which is called The World Is on Fire, when that's really balanced with self-awareness, with humor, and with a kind, generous, sympathetic view of people. There's a song on here called Tough Folks that I think is really awesome because it acknowledges that, you know, his family's past, and they grew tobacco, and that then tobacco went out of style, and they've kind of lost their jobs, and he acknowledges sort of the desperation of a lot of rural America and middle America as a reason that they might have voted for Trump, and you can tell that he's not happy that that's where the country is going. But man, I'm not one that loves a lot of political music, but I feel like the way he's delivered this album is so smart, and that makes it really cool to me. Now, what I also really like about it is it's not just BJ Barham dealing with big kind of issues up in the clouds about our country and about tobacco farming or whatever. It really is personal, and it's a perfect balance of the two of those. There's songs on here, the one we're listening to right now is called When We Were Younger Men, that I think is a really gorgeous take on friendship, especially friends that have sort of drifted apart, and he wants them to look back fondly on the times when they were younger men. There's another song on here that is easily gonna be one of my Song of the Year contenders, called One Day at a Time, and I actually talked about it in my Best Songs of 2018 So Far video. One Day at a Time is a song in which BJ Barham is singing about a lot of things, about his role as a songwriter and as someone that used to drink way too much, so as a recovering alcoholic, and saying that he's kind of taking life one day at a time and trying to become a better version of himself. And he talks about, man, there's a killer line on it where he says, songs reveal a human need to stand up and watch another man bleed. And I feel like that's what he does on this record. He owns his shit, and he acknowledges his problems. There's another song, I Give Up the Drinking Before She Gave Up on Me, which is about, you know, obviously giving up drinking to be with his now wife. There's another song called Shadows of You, about kind of being haunted by a former memory. Here I am in Richmond again, still haunted by the shadows of you. And I really feel like there's a ton of levity and groundedness in this record, even as it's dealing with a lot of painful things. Musically, it sounds incredible. There is, I don't know that the band has ever sounded tighter to me. There's really light but propulsive percussion. There's tons of fun guitar work and steel that's in this, and it's just so pleasant to listen to, and it really rocks out. I mean, they're really kind of walking the line between rock and country, and a song like Tough Folks, it really sells this album to me. I kind of wish it opened with Tough Folks and that The World Is on Fire was later in the record, but that's fine with me. I think there are a few values in this album. One of them is hard work. One of them is patience. One of them, patience with yourself and with the world and with others. And one of them is self-awareness about kind of who you are and your own stuff. And man, to me, it's just a beautiful collection of songs. And I really think you guys should check it out. It is excellent. My number 2 album of the month, I'm not going to talk about much because I've covered it very well on this channel in a 25-minute video. It's Dierks Bentley's The Mountain. Love that album. I think it is one of his most consistent and consistently good records in years. And I think Living is going to be the smash that comes from this record. Go check out my video on it. I've covered it thoroughly. My number 3 record of June is Tami Neilson's Sassafras. Tami Neilson, if you're unfamiliar with her, is from New Zealand. Well, she's from like Texas and New Zealand, but she's been in New Zealand a long time. She's a New Zealand musician, and she's making some of the coolest, best sort of like spaghetti western, like Quentin Tarantino, Nancy Sinatra, like these boots are made for walking type of sort of like sassy secret agent country music that, I mean, that's a very specific genre, but she's nailing it. Tami has just a crazy good voice. I mean, I'm talking like Adele levels of vocal ability here. And she has put out some albums that I absolutely love. I mean, Dynamite is a knockout album, and Cry Over You is my favorite song by her. There's little touches of Hawaiian music in hers, and there's a lot of color and punch and fun. So Tami is, you know, she might be an acquired taste, and it might not be everyone's thing, and that's okay. I really appreciate how much sort of work and visual effort she puts into her covers and into her music videos and all that. So there's your little primer on Tami Neilson. Sassafras is an album that is a very angry album, which is something I haven't heard really from her. I've heard sort of, you know, romantic. I've heard sort of mourning her father's death and like her loneliness, and but I haven't heard one that's like a really specific feminine anger. There's a lot of songs on this record that are clearly written in response to the Me Too movement, or toward like Harvey Weinstein specifically. There's one song called Smoking Gun on here that's just, it sounds like Kill Bill, and it reminds me of Harvey Weinstein, since he's the one that produced Kill Bill, kind of like a vengeful bride, which is what those movies are about, or like seeking justice. But there are also moments in which that anger is expressed not so sort of vengefully, but a little more like funny. You know, Bananas is a song that cracks me up because she's talking about, like, you know, bananas is a euphemism in the song for, you know, the male member. And it's like in the jungle, it's all bananas, and it's driving her bananas. So there's tons of fun wordplay in that song. And there's another song called A Woman's Pain that's a lot more serious a take on this. And it kind of gets into the actual physical pains of bearing children that women deal with. And that was really interesting, you know. I'm a dude. I don't really think that much about, you know, the physical pain that women go through to deliver a child. And it was interesting hearing her sing about Adam and Eve, and yeah, I just, that was interesting to me. There's a few songs on here that I'm really thankful are here. Like Good Man is kind of what it ends with, which I wouldn't have expected. It's a really refreshing note, honestly, because the album, to me, if I had a criticism of it, can be a little one note thematically. And I'm not like annoyed that she is singing about like her frustrations about being a woman in 2018. But I think that it doesn't cover as diverse of subject matter as maybe I wish it did, so I don't get like the full picture of a person. I get a really clear picture of how they feel about a few specific issues. But you know, if it feels a little one note thematically to me, it definitely doesn't feel that musically. We go all over in this. We got rockabilly, and we got kind of luau, and we've got classic country, like the song we're listening to right now, Manitoba Sunrise at Motel 6. Love that. And like I said, the song Good Man, I think, is a really excellent ender, and a very, I like hopefulness in music, so it's nice to hear her sing about a good man, presumably her husband. So this album, Sassafras, is a good name, and it's a good cover for it because it's colorful, it's loud, and it's very sassy, and it's very Tami Neilson. And so the thing with me and artists is, like, once I understand kind of an artist's perspective, it's pretty hard for them to lose me. You know, I'm hardly, like, huge feminist here. I mean, I do support equal opportunity for everybody. But even when there's an album that I wouldn't naturally gravitate to subject matter wise, like maybe some of the stuff on Sassafras, Tami Neilson has had me hooked, since the first time I heard her. And I'm going to go on that artistic journey with her and listen and say, I haven't thought about everything in this way. So, really cool album. I would give it, oh gosh, I haven't been giving these albums ratings. Forgive me. American Aquarium, I'm going to go 9, Dierks 8, and Sassafras by Tami Neilson, I'd give a 7 out of 10. Her vocals on it are crazy good, and One Thought of You is probably my favorite vocal on the whole album. So check that one out if you just want to hear her sing. All right, the next album I want to talk about is one that kind of took me by surprise, and it's Amos by Michael Ray. So Michael Ray, I have given a hard time for most of his career. I really didn't like his kind of big breakout single, Kiss You in the Morning. I just thought it was stupid. And it was kind of in the throes of the bro country days, and here comes this like pretty boy with tattoos. That's kind of what I cynically assumed, and I'm a less cynical person now than I used to be when reviewing music. I hope that comes across in my reviews. But this is his second album. Oh, and the other reason, I wrote a whole column once about his song Real Men Love Jesus, which I still think is a stupid song, and I won't back down from that point. And I'm still cynical about that one, but I think it's a more, authentic cynicism, not just rolling my eyes. Anyway, Amos, Michael Ray's new album, was led by a single called Get to You that I think I've been hearing over the past few months on the radio, and recently I was like, who sings that song where it's like, get to you? Better than that, though, because I think that's such a pretty hook, and I was like, wow, it's Michael Ray. Interesting. I really like that song, and so I checked out this album with caution, because I was like, I don't want to be fooled, and it be another bro country album, and really it's not. I think that this album is way better than I was expecting, and I think it's actually a really consistent and consistently nice to listen to album. There's definitely some of that, like, machismo, but, like, I don't mind that. It's my issue with bro country was when it was the only flavor available on the radio. I just want to have variety, and that's what was frustrating me in the industry, is we weren't having any variety, and we're getting into a way healthier place now, where you can have your Luke Bryan party songs, and you can have your Florida Georgia Line party songs, so long as they're tempered by just other things. I want to feel the variety of the human experience on the radio. So, mini rant. Getting back to Michael Ray's album, there's a few songs on here, like Get to You, that I think are quite good. And I think the music of it is actually really good. There's a few drum loops, but on the whole, you get a lot of guitar, you get a lot of, you get some like atmospheric steel sometimes on this song. And there's thematically a lot on this record about sort of a girl that got away from spring break. There's a song on here called One That Got Away, which is the next single that, when I first heard it, I was like, this is so douchey. It's basically like, this girl's a tiger and I got her by the tail, and she might leave a scar, but like, I'm gonna have a good night tonight. And it's like, she's gonna be a good one that got away. So it just feels like a sort of trashy, like, song about wanting to hook up with this girl, and even though you know it's not gonna be a relationship that lasts. And I don't have a ton of respect for that. And that's kind of followed up with another song called Summer Water that's like, it was interesting because listening to that, I was like, oh, well, this is a sort of more like romantic, sexy version of what we just heard, where we're singing about the temporariness of being in the summer water, and how it baptized you and made for this like perfect temporary time. But I don't know, it kind of expanded on that theme of One That Got Away. And then all the way near the end of the record, there's a song I love that we were just listening to called Girl from Spring Break. And Girl from Spring Break, I think, is my favorite song on this record. It is about like a short hookup that became, it lingers in his mind, where he's like, I wonder what that girl from Spring Break is doing now. Like, does she have a family? Is she back in Alabama? Did she move to California? He has no idea. And it's kind of getting into the little bit of pain that happens in a short-term hookup like that, like in the song One That Got Away. So I feel like by the end of the record, especially the last few songs, like Dancing Forever I think is a really good song, I'm Gonna Miss You, and Drink One For Me, it gets a little more serious and a little more there's a little more gravitas to the music, and I feel like he's taking himself more seriously as a man and not just as like a guy that wants to hook up with as many girls as he can get, which is what I sort of stereotyped Michael Ray as based on some performances I've seen of his. It's nice to feel a little more serious near the end of this record, and it really elevates the rest of the record for me. That said, there's definitely some songs on here that aren't for me. I think Fangirl, no, that is not something I enjoy, and Forget About It, that's another no for me. I don't think they sound good, and I don't like the vibe of them at all, which is kind of getting into the side of things that's just trashy and stupid and poppy. But all that said, Amos by Michael Ray, I'm gonna give it 6 out of 10. I think there was a lot about this record that was better than I expected it to be, so a solid effort, and I stand corrected. Alright, the next record I want to talk about is Dan and Shay's self-titled album, Dan and Shay. This is a record that, you can hear a lot of my thoughts on Dan and Shay in the video I did on Keeping Score, reacting to their single with Kelly Clarkson. So I won't talk too long about this album here, because I think this video is getting a little long anyway. But this is a record that I think is fine. I think I would actually christen a new musical genre to talk about Dan and Shay. And it's not country music. I think I would call it Nashville. And sometimes I think about actually using that lingo and separating Nashville from country music, because I think a Nashville record is actually somewhere in between, like R&B sex jams, late 90s pop, and contemporary Christian music. You've got sort of like the bland production of Christian music, the beats of these kind of R&B sex jams, and a lot of them are just hookup songs, and then you've got these really like poppy synth kind of layered boy band vocals. And so that's totally where this record falls. There's a little, they throw a bone to country music sometimes, but it's not really trying to be country music. I guess it's just the lane that it's easiest to market these guys in. And they definitely kind of can look the boy band part and definitely sound it a few times on this record. So let's talk about this Nashville record. Tequila is a really good lead single. I feel like tequila is the drink I associate with fun, though, and not with sort of syrupy, like, sad memories, but that's okay. There's a lot of kind of syrupiness on this album. Someone commented that this album is like a throw pillow or like a cozy blanket. That's a pretty good way to describe this. It is very sort of earnest, bland, nice love songs, and it gets a little monotonous, I think, but there are a few real highlights on this album to me. I think What Keeps You Up at Night, where you've got this kind of ascending deep voice with the kind of really pretty harmony on top of it, and the guitar solo and really a country vibe, fits them really well. I really like that song quite a bit. All to Myself, yeah, that's got a good hook on it, and it's got that snapping chorus. My Side of the Fence, that's another song that I actually like a lot. Keeping Score has Kelly Clarkson. I don't think it's the best lyric, but I think it's got a cool vocal on it. In general, I think this album doesn't have the best lyrics, and it's got cool vocals on it. So, I don't have a ton to say. There's not like a lot for me to grab onto here, and it just feels very safe. And so, yeah, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. Because musically, I think it sounds quite nice, but like I said, not really country and not really my thing. And my last place record for June is going to go to Sugarland's Bigger. Sugarland is such a confounding act to me. You have two objectively talented people that are in this band, and yet they just seem to lack like a taste level or something that is preventing them from ever just making something as good as songs like Stay or Something More, or even like their Bon Jovi collaboration, Who Says You Can't Go Home. Bigger to me is just is not what they should be aiming for. They seem to be aiming bigger and let's swing for the fences and make, songs that are poppy and embrace our theatrical side, and also are tackling big issues, and it's just messy. Like, I don't feel like this album sounds consistent. I don't really get what it's about, and I just think it is overwrought in every way. So it's bigger to a fault, and it's got the worst cover of any album. I think I was primed to dislike it because I find the cover so aesthetically displeasing, like a big old circus tent that someone just like graffitied with a big paintbrush, like Bigger on top of. I don't get it. Jennifer Nettles, she has an awesome voice, but she keeps deciding to rap on this album in ways that are way worse than Stuck Like Glue, if you're still traumatized from that rap. And it just is very cheesy to me. It's very, very hard to take seriously. And the songwriting on this is okay, but the production is all over the place. It's sometimes poppy and funky, and it's sometimes like really sparse. There's a couple songs on here. Tuesday's Broken, which is about shootings at schools. There's another song on here called Mother that, you guessed it, is about mothers. Here's her rapping. Anyway, there's another song on here called Bird on a Cage. It's a very kind of after-school special, like Be Who You Are kind of song. And all these message songs, to me, they counterintuitively make this album feel less persuasive or less progressive than it's trying to. You want to really convince someone to think differently about the world? Well, then show them your soul. But to me, it gets very preachy on a few of these songs, and it's sort of not fun to listen to at all. To be kind of lectured about how the world works, and we need to acknowledge this. And I know they're trying to use their platform for something big, but people are mostly drawn to musicians because they're honest. And so the best way to meet people is just by being honest, telling small stories about everyday life. People like John Prine, Laurie McKenna, that's the sort of songwriting that I'm really affected by and drawn to. Not this kind of big, broad, trying to conquer the problems of the world songwriting. I don't enjoy that. I don't like the sound of this record, and so I'm just gonna give it. But I do like their voices, and I'm glad Sugarland's making music. So, and you can watch my Babe reaction for more thoughts on Sugarland, but I'm just gonna give this album a 4 out of 10. Sorry. Alright guys, that is it for me. It's so hot. It's July 4th and it's like 100 degrees outside, so sorry if I look like a sweaty mess. But if you like this video, give it a like. Obviously there's albums I missed. Let me know stuff that I absolutely gotta hit before the end of the year. And let me know what your thoughts are on some of these albums in the comments below. Give this video a like, subscribe, share it. Do whatever. I love you guys. And I'm going to shoot a bunch more of these, and I'll see you throughout the week. Okay, bye.